Hey guys, it's Harry from Inside Boxing Brain, and today's video is all about how boxers and athletes cheat drug tests. If you enjoy my content and you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to my channel. Drop me a comment in the comment section below and like these videos as well, because that always really helps. Now, I just wanted to jump on and really do a slight follow-up video from my last video all about drugs in sports. So the video with Dr. Usman Sajid, in which he essentially outlines how many boxers are currently using drugs and the repercussions of doing that within the professional game in light of Conor Benn's positive test. But that really sent me off on a bit of a spiral. Everyone's comments in that video really made me think and challenged my perceptions really about drugs in sport. And I started doing a lot more research into the testing agencies, how they work, how they operate, what liberties they give the athletes who are signed up to them, and whether or not there are any loopholes that people can really exploit to get past these tests. And there's a lot of information to take in. So today's video, I really just want to touch on one of the key points as to why and how boxers especially beat and cheat these tests. And when I found out, it was news to me, but let's get into it right away. So there is a loophole called the strike system. The strike system. And WADA and VADA and UCAD, most of the testing agencies, they operate on what they call a rolling strike system. So within any 18-month period, an athlete is allowed 3 strikes. Now, to get a strike, what you need to do is have they call it a negative test, or a test which you're not present at. So what athletes would do is, when the testing agency gives them the document to fill out to say, give us your location of where you're going to be so that we can test you at all times randomly, what they will do is they will write a location and then they'll be in a completely different location, fully well knowing that if the testing agency comes to check on them and they're not there to do the test, that will be their first strike. And these strikes operate very similarly to, like points on your license. You're allowed to accumulate a certain amount until then you get banned. So you're allowed 3 strikes. Now, throughout this period when you're away on strike or you're away not being tested, an athlete can be on any cycle that they really want. And there are very fast acting short esters that really can get through the body really quick, whether that's done intramuscular injection or whether it's done orally through pills, or whether it's even done with creams and lotions. I actually stumbled across a video by this Dr. Victor Kont. It's Conti with an E on the end, but I'm assuming that it's a silent E. So Dr. Kont. And he's talking about how athletes within the sprinting and athletics game beat drug tests. And he touches on a very similar point, that many athletes or elite athletes, what they will do is they will exploit the 3 strike system. They'll miss at least 2 tests within any 18-month period and cycle throughout that period. And then once they've got 2 strikes, they'll essentially make sure that the drugs are out of their system before coming back, getting tested to get back into the clean program. And it made me think that this loophole must have been there for years and years, and people and athletes at the elite level will have exploited it to their own means. So it makes you think that a lot of these athletes are probably signed up to the testing agencies more as a way to just strengthen their credibility. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be doping, it just means that they're going to be very selective with when they're doping and how they're doping. So I'm now interested to go and learn about what type of steroids these boxers are taking, because this Dr. Kont, he mentions that some of them actually come out of your system within 48 hours. So for a urine test, for example, you'd be able to beat a urine test within 48 hours of being on a particular performance-enhancing drug or anabolic agent. Having said that, I do think that there is definitely a need for testing agencies, and, you know, the percentage of athletes getting tested frequently needs to increase, because I feel like we only look at the elite fighters in the game, we only look at the top fighters, we never look at the stacked divisions that we've got from the bottom to, you know, fringe level. We're only really catching people when they are at that elite level. Maybe there is a lot of fighters getting caught, you know, sort of domestic level fighters, but we don't hear about it. So something needs to be done to sort of highlight the fact that there are so many loopholes that fighters can exploit. The other thing that really helps fighters beat tests is being signed up to agencies that don't test them frequently enough. The WBC clean boxing program, everybody sort of sees that as the emblem, the cherry on the top of testing, and certifies fighters for being clean. But I was reading online that a boxer, an unnamed boxer, it was a blog that was done about the corruption in sport. I'll try and share the link with you. But essentially, this boxer came out and said that he'd been signed up to the WBC clean boxing program and he'd never been tested by them. So it makes you think, like, why is it there? Is it for the WBC to have another income revenue, or income stream, or revenue stream rather? Because these sanctioning or, you know, governing bodies, they are essentially businesses, and the WBC is essentially a family business. WBC is a family business, so there's definitely more corruption within boxing than there is in any other sport. I'd love to see if you think that there's any other sports that can even come close to boxing when it comes to corruption. So that's two ways in which boxers can cheat drugs tests. As I mentioned, the first is the fact that they have a 3-strike system. So at any one point in an 18-month period, you're allowed to have up to 2 strikes, and it's undisclosed as well, so nobody knows that you've been given this strike. It's private information, so fighters can exploit it to their advantage, and I'm sure many elite fighters do that. Secondly, it's the governing bodies providing these clean boxing programs and then not testing their fighters regularly enough. How can you say that this is the clean WBC clean boxing program if you're not testing your boxers frequently? I really love the UFC when it comes to testing their fighters, and I think the boxing game has a lot to learn from the UFC when it comes to implementing all year round drug testing of their athletes. So we've covered the 2 points that I really wanted to touch on in this video. It's kind of a run-off to the last video. It's this Dr. Victor Kont. He's the guy who really talks in depth about this, and in his opinion, you know, it's shocking again, it's damning, but he thinks that 50 to 60% of athletes currently, elite athletes, are using steroids. And it makes me think, why are all these doctors of the thought that a large proportion or the majority of athletes use drugs? And where are the solid facts? Like, why are there not more positive tests and people getting banned from professional sports if 90 or 60, in his opinion, % of athletes or boxers are using drugs? Shocking. I always wanted to be a professional boxer when I was young, and I did amateur boxing for a very long time, and it was some of the best years of my life. You know, I really loved it. And at one point I approached my parents and I said, look, I want to take this forward as a career. And in hindsight, looking back, I'm thankful for the advice that they gave me, because they pulled me away from the sport and they said that the professional game wasn't an industry that they expected or wanted me to be in. They felt that I could do much better for myself. And even though I loved the sport, I respected that decision, because at the end of the day, I knew that they had my best intentions at heart. And it always did bug me a little bit growing up that, you know, I could have been a boxer. I really could have gone far in the game, and I wish I'd have done it. But now, looking into the professional game and hearing and watching and experiencing, witnessing firsthand the corruption that occurs, I'm so glad that I never went into it. The YouTube boxing game is a much cleaner game by the looks of things, and it's almost a case of professional boxing is being left in the past. It's run by the mob. That's how it feels anyway. Because promoters must also know that these loopholes exist, and if they haven't plugged them gaps, they obviously want their fighters to exploit them. So just a quick roundup, guys. I want to get into all these different subjects more and more as the channel progresses. I'm trying to keep these subject matters interesting. I don't just want it to be a reaction to the fight last night. So if you have any ideas or suggestions for me, drop them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying the content. And I will be back for another video fairly soon. Peace.